right, welcome back. Apologies for the short break that we needed to take, and we're just going to dive right in. So, Richard, thank you so much for joining us today, and thanks for your flexibility. Glad to have you here. So like I said, I gave everyone just a brief intro about you before we brought you into the feed. So let's dive in. So Richard, you've been with BP since 2012, I believe, if your LinkedIn profile is correct, but you've been in the industry for most of your career. So can you tell us how you got your start in travel?
Yeah, I mean, that's a long time ago. It's through, obviously, as a student in hotel management and catering, and joined management programs in Hilton, then Trust House Forte. So that shows how long ago it was. And then I had my own restaurant for 5 years. We moved around in management, senior, and then I took the step and jumped over into travel management companies and agencies, event management companies. And then my own consultancy, and that's a long story. If you look at my LinkedIn, you'll see how I then ended up in corporates and joined BP as a contractor back in 2011, and then full-time 2012 as in the global travel team. So haven't really looked back since, and time's flying. But yeah, I heard your introduction, and I think you need to rebrand the Hotlist because, obviously at my stage of career, it's given my colleagues and family and friends great amusement. So thank you.
Oh, glad to help you out with that. So knowing that you've had sort of while you've been within travel and hospitality, you've done lots of different things. What's your favorite part about working in the industry?
It's people. I think it's, we're all talking about the age of digitalization and simplification, agile. But I think it's culturally the ability that you meet somebody and the diversity, the cultures, it's just people. People make things happen. So.
Absolutely. I would agree. It's been one of my favorite things about working in the industry, and every day I just am amazed at the people that I get to meet from all over the world. So let's talk about BP, the work that you've been doing but also the work that BP is doing. So 1 year ago, the company launched a new purpose to reimagine energy for people and the planet, as well as the goal to be a net zero company by 2050. So can you share some examples of how BP's initiatives are benefiting the larger travel ecosystem?
Yeah. I mean, it is a year. It's been a fantastic journey so far. I mean, it's been Bernard Looney and the exec team have really set their stall out. We, as a global travel team, had already been starting that journey of the shift into the digital area. We were a year before the board had already given us the budget to offset all of our travel from our carbon team, etc. So there was a lot of work in progress behind the scenes, and I think Bernard's appointment and the team has really elevated a lot of the strategy and the thinking that we were already having as a travel team to change our global models and approach. So the impact, I mean, no doubt we'll get onto some questions around, how we're working within what we call this circular economy and partnerships within our supply base rather than a customer supply base. So, yeah, I mean, it's really impacting a lot of our change in attitude, people, and the way that we're behaving.
Yeah, so why don't we actually go ahead and get into that, because I think that's one of the things that I'm personally most fascinated about, and I hope our audience will find this interesting too, is when we talk about sort of the traditional buyer-supplier relationship, but I know that you really view your role as being a consultative partner to your suppliers, as opposed to that more traditional relationship. And obviously some of this is because you work for a company that is uniquely positioned to actually be both a customer and a supplier yourselves. But I also think that some of what's made you and your team successful is because you do just view the relationship very differently. You have a different mindset. So can you just speak to this a bit? Maybe share some of those specific examples of that sort of partnership, consultative partnership. But then also, what advice would you have for the other buyers on the event today in terms of how they can potentially start to shift their mindset when it comes to supplier relationships?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I heard the word from Ben earlier, was trust, and I think that all comes as part of the partnership environment. I see, probably the old traditional travel manager position is probably not relevant for what we're actually doing today. I'm very much looking at the areas. Obviously, the last year we've become risk managers as well, in a lot of areas. But it's more about that commercial consultative position that we can be with inside our business, engaging the stakeholders. But I think those suppliers that may be on the call today will know me, know the culture of BP, and it is about a partnership. But it's no good just having a contract that you sign and say we're partners. It's actually making it live, making it breathe, looking at it. So examples of activity I've done over the last year with the teams is working with the BP Pulse guys in the Chargemaster, looking at our supply base in hotels, some key hotel partners that are now partnering with BP Pulse to bring in electric vehicle charging into the car parks. Yesterday, I had a very interesting call with the leadership in Air BP. So what are we doing to progress the sustainable air fuel into our airline partners, and how my strategy is lengthening the stride. It's no good just looking at what are we going to do this year. My advice out there is don't look at just what you can do quickly, anybody can go in and negotiate. And, if you've got the leverage, if you've got the program, then you'll get the best price. But actually, if you build the relationships and look at a longer sustainable relationship with your partners that can help them, they're in business, they need to make profit. But at the same time, it's just keeping that close eye of who else is available, what else is coming, and you can start to look at that digital integration and use that as facilitation of your programs. And then the people, as I said earlier, will make it happen. So it is really about trust, transparency, and being honest.
I really appreciate that. And I'd love to try and maybe tackle a couple different topics as quickly as possible, just to try and cover a lot of ground. So, obviously you're in a bit of a unique position. First of all, you work for an oil and gas company, right? So you do have, things like you are supplying sustainable air fuel to the airlines that your travelers are also using. But you also just work for a large global company, and you have, you have a really robust, travel and meetings team. Not all buyers who are with us today are in that same position. They work in a different industry, or they work for a program that has a much smaller footprint. So, as we run through these next things, I may ask you for some advice or lessons learned that might also apply to folks regardless of the size or scope of travel program that they work for. So, the first that I want to start with is stakeholder engagement. So, you are clearly someone who has that seat at the table. Do you have a specific tip or trick that you can share for how buyers can make their voices heard within their organizations?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, BP, we'd like to be seen as an alternative energy company more than an oil and gas as we go forward, I'm sure.
Thank you for correcting me.
No, it's not correcting you. It's just, this is us. This is where we're going, and this is our strategy. But it is attracting we're attracting shareholders, we're attracting customers, we're attracting staff that are coming on this journey about the future, about our carbon neutral positions. And, again, that's how we build it. But going back to your question, I think the first thing to do is listen. And I think, part of that engagement is understand, and Andy Roberts, who's my colleague, who drives the stakeholder engagement, the service delivery with our TMC, which is Agencia, and it's not the ability that we've done it, we've signed the contract, and now it works. It's living, breathing. Every day we're keeping a close eye on what is happening within our business. And just really spending that time to listen, to understand, and offer the solutions. Don't jump to the solution. We're working in agile groups, in scrums, and really making things happen quickly. But at the same time, we don't compromise on safety. We're really under pressure to manage the costs, to make sure that our shareholders and our business is generating cash, and looking at our future protections. But I think at the same time, the stakeholders need to be engaged with a purpose on the fact that you're coming with facts. Use your data, use your examples, use gamification if you need to. Don't use a policy as the stick, use the policy as the carrot. So people want to use your program. So build a program about the business needs. I'm sure, everybody will look at it. It doesn't matter the size of your company. You're always going to get what we call leakage. I don't see it as leakage. I see it as opportunity, because you don't understand, why are people not using your program? Why are people going outside of the program, etc. And understanding, engage them, have conversations with them. They're probably basing their experience on 4, 5, 6 years ago. But we've moved forward, we've brought in other solutions, and we've listened to our leadership on the basis of the cost base and our financial programs. But at the same time, it's about what the traveler wants. And the traveler is diverse. It's changing every year. The graduates programs bringing in different thinking. We need to listen to these guys. It's all about the personalization that we're building into the interface of the profiles at the booking stage. Are we engaging in informing people that if our commitment to the planet is to go carbon neutral by the 2050. Actually, in travel, we can get there a lot quicker. And by doing that, what we need to bring is that information at the transactional point. So we're in discussions with Agencia, our key suppliers. How do we get that carbon footprint information at the point of transaction, not just the cost? And this will help people make an informed decision. And this will bring compliance. This will naturally bring cost savings, but it will also bring us to our commitment of what we want to do as a company.
Great. So first, I love that you look at when there's leakage, that's an opportunity, right? That you have a way to sort of view that as a positive opportunity to really examine your program and look at the why. You mentioned two things that I want to touch on before we sadly need to wrap up. So you mentioned Agencia. So I do want to say that, I think, more than one person has referenced the choice to move from a legacy TMC to a tech-led one. They've referenced it as a bold choice. So what advice would you have for other buyers who want to make some of those bold choices or take some of those big risks, but they might be afraid?
Yeah.
How would you suggest they get started down that path?
Yeah, I mean, have a look at the roller coaster of the emotional program that you can go through over this. It took us 18 months. We knew it was a big environment that we needed to look at to shift away from the traditional TMC model. I think Ben, Ed picked up some very salient points that we covered, whether it was down to our data, whether it was tax points, FX points, but it was also the disruptors that we were seeing coming into the market, challenging that traditional TMC model, challenging, the hidden costs or the, commercial positions that we would perhaps weren't as transparent as we'd like. And I think, yes, there isn't the silver bullet out there. There isn't the utopia position, but we chose it on the basis that we were moving as a company into a digital world. We were moving into an area where we wanted to give very quickly an increase in the mobile booking environments, the bringing in the restricted rate areas, so that I'm not getting calls every day by a traveler or a leader saying, oh, I can find a cheaper rate on the internet. Let's bring in those restricted rates onto the platform so that people can make that choice and be informed and saying, I can book the same hotel at 2 or 3 different rate points, but it's based on my travel, my purpose of travel. Why am I traveling? But actually, I'm only, the lead times are becoming shorter at the moment. So base it on the fact that I'm going to be booking for 2 days' time. I know I don't need breakfast, so I just need a room only, and I'm not going to cancel. So let me pay now and get that cheapest rate. But if you don't bring all that inventory and dynamic environment into your booking platform, then you're going to be in a situation where you're constantly going to be challenged because people don't have the time and resource and to understand or actually spend the time to look and understand what the rate restrictions are and the details. So it's all part of that building the platform for the future that's sustainable.
Great. All right. So last question for you. What is one thing that you think all travel managers need to be actively looking at in 2021? And it can either be something strategic or something operational. What would your one thing?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's spending time within the business to understand what is your future footprint going to be looking like. I think it's coming through of, the purpose of travel. I think there's going to be a lot of questions. Joining up with your security, your HR. I know you said one thing, but there is this engagement of all of these guys to understand what is the duty of care, because there's going to be a lot of thought around building a travel program that's fit for purpose for the future. The mental health area, the duty of care, the security, the safety, and then shift into supply base around, have you got the right suppliers in place, and the financial and future structures of your supplier base. There's just so many points. I think you've just got to, you don't boil the ocean, don't try and do everything, but look at the focus of where you can make a difference, but make sure that it's fit for purpose, because I don't think any company is going to be exactly as they were in 2019, in 21 and onwards. So think about, you're going back into the market a totally different company.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that you're always looking ahead, looking to the future, looking to make things better for your company, for your travelers. I'm so sorry that our conversation ended up being a little bit shorter than planned. So I hope that we can.
Hopefully one day we can all get in the same room again and do it in person.
Exactly. We can do a part 2 and do it justice. So thank you again, Richard. And with that said, I'm going to invite all of you to hop over to our next session of the day, our Travel Suppliers CEO Town Hall, which will be facilitated by my colleague, Andy Hoskins, who's the editor-in-chief of BTN Europe. Thank you.
Thank you.